Tell me a little bit about Hard Ears and how it came about.
So basically Hard Ears came about because I was shooting more and more for different magazines, and I just sort of felt like there wasn't anywhere that was really non-elitist, not too consumerist and not all about the advertising. And I was also just getting really frustrated with magazines being about who the most popular photographer or stylist is, or who's got the most Insta followers, or who's this or who's that, and I just wanted it to be something that anyone could sort of be part of and anyone can relate to, and it doesn't matter if you're really young or really old, or your work's super new or your work's not new. It's just about if your work is great and if you're relatable, like people can relate to you. I just wanted to create something for all those people, including myself. Yeah.
And how does this cover story relate? So it's got this young boy on the cover.
Yeah, so basically the theme for the first issue was old, because I was getting so bored of youth culture getting getting pushed at me from every angle, and it's always about who's like 14 and doing something, or who's super new and who's super young, and it was getting younger and younger, and I was getting so frustrated with it. So I wanted to kind of counter that with something old, something that appreciated old stuff or old people and things like tradition and culture and values that have been going for years and years, and not just new things. So with the cover image, what we wanted to do basically was shoot kids, because they're the newest people, and do something with them that was really strong, and kind of like how a lot of people shoot kids now in a really like oversized, baggy way. And we wanted to do it where they actually had the power and they were actually dressed in clothes that were too big for them, or too old, sorry, not too big, dressed in clothes that were too old for them, or made them look really regal, or made them look really glamorous, but in a way that fitted them and not in a way that kind of ridiculed them for it and made it like cool in a way. That's basically what the cover image was about. I wanted to do something specifically with black kids, because black kids have so many things growing up that they need to think about, and there are so many ideas that are sort of projected onto them before they're even adults. So it was really important that we had a black kids for that specific meaning and message. And then it wasn't supposed to be the cover image. I sort of looked at all the work that I had when we got all the work in, and I just thought it was really strong and really different, and it didn't look too fashiony, didn't look too arty. It was just something that you'd look at and be like, oh, that looks kind of cool, kind of interesting, want to look through that.
Yeah. And when you say we, is this kind of your collaborators, a mixture of friends or new people or both?
Yeah, exactly. So the Hard Ears was an idea that I came up with and a publication that I wanted to start. So I reached out to friends, family, people I found on Instagram, people whose work I'd been following for ages, and just really wanted them to be part of it. So it's a collection of that, and then when putting it together, my friend Ruby helped me with all the graphics and editing, because I just see like 50 pictures and I'm like, oh my god, I love all of them, and it's really hard for me to just like narrow down the ones that are the best, and so she helped me with that. So yeah, it was kind of a culmination of people that helped out, and then my friend Ruri did the cover design with the words and stuff. And Hard Ears actually comes from this Caribbean proverb, which is on the back, and it's hard ears won't hear, own way will feel. And my mum used to say it to me so many times when we were growing up, and it's like, if you don't listen, you have to learn your own way or the hard way. And I just didn't listen so many times, and it's sort of about being confident to find your own way in things, and do what you want to do.
So you're saying there's obviously this like really personal touch to the book. The phrase comes from your mum and all this family stuff. And speaking of family, there's this, I don't know if you call it editorial, by Ruth. That's her family, is that correct? Yeah, so Ruth Osai is a photographer that I've followed for years, probably for about 4 years, since a friend of mine worked with her in COS randomly and showed me her work. And I don't see too much of her work in sort of an editorial way anymore, because she's really passionate about things being real and things being honest. And when I first reached out to her, she was actually the person who was most like asking me about the message of the magazine or the book and what it was going to be, because she just really wanted to only be part of things that were truly meaningful. So Ruth's editorial story or whatever is really interesting, because it's her family village in Nigeria where she shot it, and all the people are friends, family, uncle, aunties, people that are really close to her. And how she brought that story to old was all about culture and tradition, and there's an Igbo proverb that she's sort of relating to, which is, a man has the same last name as his brother. And that's just relating to family and how important that is in her culture. So the images themselves sort of
you can sort of compare them to like Nollywood images and how glam Nigeria is in general as a country and Nigerian people are. And this, in terms of styling, she kept it really focused on the people and what they wear, so keeping in their belts or their clothes and that kind of thing. So that's one of my favourite stories in the whole magazine, because it's just so honest and it's so true, and I feel like a lot of people who are Nigerian or from that specific region or from a small village in Africa even can look at it and be like, yeah, that's something that I recognise, and it's not in a really over glam, over styled way that's sort of taken away from what it is. It's just like really true, and you can really see like the family bond and how she's part of it and she's shooting part of it, and it's not like outside looking in.
Yeah, it's definitely not outside looking in. You can see that when you look at it. So that was in Nigeria, and then you have different shots throughout London, and then there's also this other one in kind of a game arcade that also somehow gives this sort of family feel. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, so Alice Zoo's story is something that I'd thought about, and so basically for the magazine it was a mixture of things that I'd either, like when I contacted people, it was either something I want them to shoot because I think it would be cool for them, or just like let me know your ideas relating to old. So with Alice, because a lot of her work is really documentary style and she somehow really captures a scene and a setting, I asked her if she'd be up for doing like a games arcade series, because there's something super weird about games arcades. Every time you go there's like a weird forced happiness, and they've been around for years and years, and a lot of people would go there like after school or on holidays, and there's always that really gloomy, weird feel. So Alice Zoo went to different games arcades and sort of photographed people who were there, and there's a really, really amazing image of a girl with like loads of tickets, and I think it just sort of encapsulates a type of British culture, which is collecting things and going to a random place that you have like an ice cream there after school, but then there's someone like gambling their life away in the corner, and it's sort of just like that kind of vibe that a lot of British people or people who have been to like the countryside in England would have seen.
There's definitely like nods to family, nods to the familiar, and certainly like arcades and kind of Brighton Pier, that kind of thing is really familiar for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then you have this other series of images about bad hair.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure a lot of us can relate to.
Yeah, so I got in touch with Matt King to shoot because I just love his work and I think he's great. And he came back with this idea of bad hair, which loads of people, like you said, can relate to, because loads of people have had bad hair days. And it was kind of relating to sort of like old school photos. And I know for one, like when I was in school, my hair was terrible. Because I hated getting it combed, and my mum would always like leave me and let me sort of like run around with it looking mental. And it's kind of relating to that, which is really funny because now you have loads of people getting like bad haircuts on purpose in a sort of like cool way. So that was sort of what Matt wanted to put together, this sort of like class of now, or class of like the 80s who had like bad hairstyles, but even now if you look at it, it looks cool sort of thing.
The kind of hair's personal representation, you've kind of got these nods to kind of traditional British culture, and then Nigerian culture and families. There's all this, feels really inclusive, even though not a lot of people can necessarily relate to every part of it.
Yeah. And
then you have this film and stills Penny Up.
So yeah, Kieran, again, someone that I just reached out to on Instagram, had to go through his Instagram to find his Tumblr, to find his email address. I just love his work, and Penny Up is a really, really cool series, for me anyway, because I grew up in Walthamstow, and I'm sure a lot of people who grew up in London or even other places can relate to seeing like kids throwing pennies at a wall. And you sort of walk past and you're like, what's going on there? So it's like some kind of game, or like I've seen it before. And basically it turns out that Penny Up is a game that originated, some people say, like even from like Greek history times, from way back. And it hasn't changed at all. Like the whole concept of the game hasn't changed at all. Just the players and the pennies have changed. So that was a really cool series, because it's something that you look at and you're like, shit, I've seen all those boys before. I've seen all these people playing, and Kieran himself says he's played it when he was younger. So Penny Up is, again, kind of about not really family, but like your friends and growing up and walking past people and seeing things, and it's like you said, kind of relatable, because you see it in here and you're like, yeah, I've seen that for my whole childhood.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about the advertisements, because they're really subtle, you blink and you'll miss them type.
Yeah. So I didn't know if I wanted to have ads for that first issue of Hard Is, because it was really important to not have anything controlling the content. I don't want Hard Is to be a place that is controlled by anything. I want it to be a truly free speech place where you can write or speak or say or photograph anything, and it doesn't matter because we're not trying to impress anyone. That was something that was super important. So only advertorials that are in there are from friends at the moment, and I'm sure in the future there'll be advertorials or ads from people that I don't know, that I'm not friends with, but I would always want to keep this like honest type of ad where it's people that you recognise and you can't even flick through and be like, yeah, that's the ad, because it sort of flows and it still has a story and it still has a message. So there are 3 ads in there at the moment, and they're all just, I find them super comfortable to look at and not intrusive. One of them I actually shot in Ivory Coast, which is a super yaya ad, and all we did was go around and like ask people to put the clothes on who were in the city. And so it's an advertorial because it's advertising t-shirts, but at the same time it's not, because it's just, it could be like a documentary style photo sort of thing. So that's how I would like to continue doing advertising through Hard Ears if I have more for the next issue, just in a way that you just don't really notice it, because adverts have become such a big part of magazine culture, and now so many magazines are like 60-70% adverts, and the magazine just looks like it's there just for the adverts to be advertising at you, and I really don't want Hard Ears to become that kind of thing. So that's how I want to do ads.
So there's obviously a theme of family running through Hard Ears, and your mum features in one of the sneaky adverts. Yeah,
so Base Range is the advert that my mum features in. Marie, who's the founder of Base Range, is a friend of mine, and when we talked about potentially doing an advertorial or an ad for Base Range in Hard Ears, we just somehow ended up talking about some pictures of my mum doing exercise in the front garden up and down my road that I'd shown her a while ago, and she was like, yeah, I love that, I want that to be the ad. And it's really nice because it's next to a piece that my mum's written about growing up on Barbados and the food and some recipes, and that sort of like contrast of food and an underwear sort of like ad with my mum, who's like not like model size obviously because she's a mum, wearing Base Range and being part of this sort of advertorial that just flows as a recipe, and then my mum working out. It kind of just feels really homely to me, because my mum is always like running around the house doing exercise and in her underwear running around naked, and she's always been a big part of my work. In my exhibition that I had last year, Black Body, she was like a centerpiece of it, and it's really important that she comes through in this, especially because Hard Ears is, the name is her, like this is what she said for my whole life, and it's something really strong in her culture and her background. So it was really nice to have an ad in the Hard Ears that is relating to her, and it just sort of sums up how comfortable it is and how homely it is and how relatable. Like a lot of people who now I've started posting about Hard Ears online, they're like, oh my god, like my mum said that, my dad said that, blah blah blah. So that's really cool.
That's good. That's good that it can branch out to as many people as possible in this like relatable, comfortable way.
Yeah, I really wanted Hard Ears to be something that anyone can relate to, or at least anyone can sort of pick it up and find some comfort in it, and not sort of feel like, oh, that's really cool, but like can't really be part of that because I'm this or I'm that. Like a lot of the people whose work is featured, for example, one girl who I love who's called Abundance, she's like 18 or 19, she's super young, and she's like an incredible writer, and she's got a poem in there and also a written piece about music videos, which she's going to do a little performance of at the launch. And I love that she's part of it and people like her are part of it, because it's just not about how many Instagram followers you have or how many people have seen you. It's just, if I've somehow stumbled upon your Instagram profile or your work and I really like it, you can be part of it.
Let's talk a little bit about the launch.
Yeah.
So you're wearing one of the t-shirts.
Yeah.
As part of the collaboration.
Yeah, so I really wanted to do t-shirts for Hard Ears, just because I think t-shirts are cool and everybody wears them. And then the image of Just, who is on the cover, and the invite is on it. So I reached out to Dickies to see if they'd be up for doing like a collab, and they were, which is amazing. So we've got 2 limited edition Dickies and Hard Ears t-shirt. This is one of them, and then the other one has got another image on the back with Hard Ears Won't Hear on it. So they're going to be sold at the launch, which will be really cool. Opens at 6 till 10, and then at 7 p.m. we have poetry readings. So Abundance will be there reading her poem, Will Stowe will be there, and James Messiah, who's another incredibly talented poet and artist and musician, will be there reading some of his pieces from the magazine and a few others relating to old. Then at 8 p.m. we're going to have film screenings. So Kieran's Penny Upton will be playing, my film that I made about Marie Yatt underwear will be there. One I made about Klein, who's like an amazing new musician, will be there, and another one about old people, which was filmed in Portugal, which is really great, and it's just like loads of old people walking around Portugal. And then we're there till 10, and we'll have drinks, and hopefully it will just be really nice and fun.
part of the profits go to charities.
Yeah.
One of which stays the same for every publication, and one of which is issue dependent.
Yeah, exactly. So I volunteered at Crisis, homeless charity, for the past 2 years, and will be again this year at Christmas. I find that it's really, really difficult with my schedule as like a freelancer to commit to volunteering as much as I can, especially for things that I think are really important. And with everybody in London, living in London, people don't have as much money to give or as much time to give to causes that they think are super important. And through creating my own publication, I will be able to generate funds that I can donate to charity, which I think is a really, really important cause. So Crisis is one of the charities that I'm associated with already, and so that will be the charity that is consistently donated to. And the other one, my friend Miriam gave me this great idea of donating based on the theme. So the theme for issue 1 is old, so we'll be donating to the Alzheimer's Society. Yeah.
It's very image-based, you can say, but there's definitely text in there, and at the back, a fiction piece.
Yeah, so basically I didn't want to have too much text in Hardest, too many written pieces, because when I look through magazines, I just go straight for the pictures, and I never really read the text. So I wanted to make sure that all the written pieces was something that you'd really want to read, and that you'd flick through and you'd be like, yeah, this is really cool, I want to actually read this. And so there's only a few pieces, maybe 5 or 6 written pieces in the whole thing. And at the end, something that I really wanted to do was have a fiction piece that links to the theme and potentially continues through every issue. So at the end of every issue, there'll be a short story, which is kind of nice because it's not really anything to do with fashion or art or whatever, but it's just something that you can kind of sit down and read. I really want Hardest to be something that is not like a flicker. It's something that you pick up and then you look at and then you put it down, and later on you have it in your bag and you read the piece at the end or that kind of thing. So that's one thing that I think is cool to check out.